Hello, everybody. My name is Ahmed Banafa, and I am faculty at San Jose State University in San Jose, California. And we're going to talk today about a very important aspect of cybersecurity and the use of artificial intelligence in that. And the reason for this is nowadays cybersecurity is really a hot area. Just to share with everybody some of the buzzwords we have here in the Silicon Valley, there are 4 areas that are of interest, and they are really hot, and there are a lot of startups and a lot of research going on with the 4 areas. They are the IoT, the Internet of Things, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. If you visit the Silicon Valley, you're going to see that a lot of companies, what they do, they focus on having having the mix of all of them together to get some kind of a unique system that they can use. My background is in electrical engineering. I finished my graduate and engineering. I finished my study of cybersecurity at Harvard University, and my focus is on the in the 4 areas. And this is why I looked at the artificial intelligence as the defense line number 1 against any kind of problems that facing us with the cybersecurity. I'm going to share the screen with everybody. You can start the presentation. Just give me a second to make sure it's visible for everyone. Now, I want to make sure that everyone can see the first slide. If anybody can confirm that they can see the first slide here. It is the title is First Line of Defense for Cybersecurity, Artificial Intelligence, and it has my name and has everything there. It's just a confirmation that so I can proceed with the rest of the presentation here. So let's move on a little bit. This is a little bit background about me and my research and how I started looking at both areas, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. My focus is actually in the Internet of Things, and then it's expanded to the security part of this, to the blockchain, and then we talk about the smart side of the Internet of Things, which is the artificial intelligence and the application of the artificial intelligence, or the applications of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity. I will start my presentation with this slide. I'm going to read it for you before I go and dive into the details about what's going on with with cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. This is a statement, and this is an information and news came from the latest Black Hat Cybersecurity conference. If you read it, it's gonna give you that kind of understanding how significant it is and how difficult it is now to look at cybersecurity without understanding that there is an intelligent part of it. It's not just the hacking; it's more than that. So we looking at this today. Malware is bad. Just wait until we get to a certain stage where there will be some kind of a malware, malicious-ware in your computer, on a certain computer, and that one we're not going to start. We're not going to activate it until the right person is sitting or using that computer. And I'm not talking just about the camera, because you can deal with the camera. I'm talking sometimes by the certain activities of that person on the keyboard, or a certain or accessing certain website or certain accounts, and that one will be activated right away and then take that information. So we're going to get to something which is like a selective hacking. You go there, use artificial intelligence to define the right person, because I don't want to deal with the low-level, people who does not have access to this valid information or this valuable information. I want to only take it from one side, which is the side of the most important person in the organization. This is coming. This is not something that we think that it's just in the future. It's coming soon. 2017 was not really a good year for the cybersecurity. We have seen so many of and this is the sad part of it. We're talking about cyber attacks became so rampant and so frequent that people look at it and it's become the norm for them. Unless it's a huge, big one, a big name, or a huge number of data, then people are just look at it and just move on with their life. We have cyber attacks on Uber, Duluth, and Equifax, and the infamous WannaCry ransom attack. The ransom attack is another very important variation of the cybersecurity attacks, which, because it has many folds within it. The number one is you're holding the information, the data, the systems, you hold them hostage, and also they're asking for Bitcoin as a payment, so nobody will track down the money. It's not a cash, it's not a wire transfer. So for them is not something. Is that ransom is really a big problem. 2018 started with a bang too, with the hacking of the Winter Olympics. And if you haven't heard about this one, because it's really went under the radar, but there was a hacking for the Winter Olympics. And I remember I had few interviews with some of the local station and a TV station in Hong Kong about it. What happened with it is the hackers, that they got a hold of the press, the press and the media computers, and also the ticketing software and hardware. At the top of that one, they shut it down, so people cannot even print their tickets to go and attend the games. The media could not report anything about it, and that was the reason for Intel to cancel the show of the drones they have. And whatever we've seen on TV is actually a rerun of practice they had in December. It is dangerous because you have so many important people attending the opening of the ceremony and attending the the closing ceremony, and those people are really extremely important. Can you imagine what happened if we have somebody hacked into the drones, and there are like 300 of them, they lower it down to 150 and start attacking people, in their boxes, or throw something, on the attendees. So this is another aspect of looking at cybersecurity as creating not just a crime here, taking a political atmosphere that can impact relationship between countries. The increase, with the attack is that most businesses and the cybersecurity itself are not prepared, and this is the problem with. And the reason for this one, for having this statement and say it's not prepared, because we don't have the same urgency about changing, our practices in cybersecurity as big companies, medium companies, small companies, and sometimes the cost will play a lot of, a big role in the decision about cybersecurity. The prime example of this one is WannaCry. WannaCry is a program that attack computers that's still running Windows XP, and Windows XP support is gone from Microsoft. They're not patching it. They're not sending any new updates. So it was an open season for anyone who would like to access the thousands and thousands of computers. 150 countries affected by WannaCry, ransom virus there. So this shows you the depth of the problem here. And even though there are many, Microsoft is doing their whatever they can do about updating the operating system, and other companies doing also the patches and issuing warning about it, whether it's a browser, or it's an operating system, or a software. We still have a problem. We still have a problem, and the cybersecurity is still increasing here. The other thing that to add to the problems here we facing, businesses are not ready. We have a problem with the workforce. We don't have enough. We don't have enough people working in the cybersecurity field for so many reasons. But by the end of the day, that is the issue. And I'll give you some numbers here. By 2021, you're talking about we're going to have close to 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity positions worldwide. And the current staff, within the IT and the people who are dealing with the security, they're actually overworked. It's the average hours of working every week is 52 hours. So that's not going to help, because you don't want to deal with it with this kind of stressed staff and the shortage you have in the number of the expertise in cybersecurity. Now, given the state of the cybersecurity today, implementation of artificial intelligence has two sides. One side is the good guys, or the other side is the bad guys. I have to understand that we are using artificial intelligence to protect the businesses, to protect the data, the information, the systems, the networks of the business, for the same reason the bad guys, or the bad actor will do the same thing. They're going to use it so they can overcome any kind of a smart algorithm we have to protect, our systems or networks or data or information here. A new generation of malware and cyber attack can be difficult to detect, like the one I told you about, which is it's going to wait until the right person in front of the computer and start the attack. And the thing about artificial intelligence, it's actually evolving over time. So it's gonna teach itself, to be better every time we have an attack and there is some kind of protection. Then okay, next time we're gonna try something else. And this is the scary part of it for the bad actors and for the good actors here. For the bad actors, they have the algorithm and they're gonna improve it by trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And that's the case which we are trying to avoid. And this is how I'm trying to give this balanced view of, yes, it's wonderful. It's the first line of defense for cybersecurity. You have to understand that if you're smart, there's somebody else smarter than you will come. The algorithm will overcome whatever protections you have, whatever defense line you have here. So you have to keep it going on, and you improve it, by the day. Another great benefits of it's that they will free up and a lot of time of the IT, of the security expertise. They're gonna be free to do something else beside manually or writing scripts or looking at the logs or trying to identify traffics by reading certain parameters here. That's very helpful with this one. And the last thing is the AI systems can help by categorizing attacks based on threat level. So instead of having one size fits all, that the level of the attack. So instead of using the resources and draining the resources and straining the resources for every single attack, the artificial intelligence based on the history, based on understanding what's going on, they can categorize what will be the reaction, what will be the response for this kind of attack. Now, it's still fair to work, fair at the beginning. Artificial intelligence is not new. Cybersecurity is not new. It's the mix that we're talking about. The availability of the information and the diversity we have for the different systems that created these kind of gaps that the hackers they can access, and they can create a lot of problem for us. Machine learning principles are incorporated into the systems. That's one thing. And this is a very important thing, and to understand that the minute you hear somebody say this is a smartphone, a smart device, a smart car, that's another word for there is some kind of artificial intelligence involved with it. And the next thing I'm looking for is smart security. Well, that would be a good thing to hear, that we have a smart security system that will adapt itself and train itself to deal with the different attacks and change and morph into new phases to get to the level where it's not going to be a problem for them. Limitation is part of the game. Human-machine teams will be the key, and this is one big thing. And I would like to mention something about Facebook here at this stage, because I remember last week Sheryl Sandberg was talking to the Congress about what they're trying to do to protect the coming elections, or to protect the users in general after the Cambridge Analytica problems, drama they had in April. And one of the things that Facebook is trying to do is, implement, is to have something called the war room, or the situation room. And that's a mix of human and technology, where the artificial intelligence will spot and will filter, will isolate certain accounts that they think that they are related to previous account that been suspect of being, creating problems, or fake accounts or fake news. And then the human will make the final decision about it. So this kind of teams between human and machine is very helpful here. Our models become effective at detecting the threats. Bad actors will actually be better, because they're using the same system and they don't have any limitations on privacy or on security, anything. They're actually breaking the rules. So for them, it's not going to be that much difficult for them to catch up with the security we have. Bad actors will study how we, the underlying models, and they try to come up with something which will overcome that, which will shortcut this one, will penetrate it. So keep this in mind here. They have to have it up to date all the time. Now, 4 fundamental security practices, and this is important to understand the fundamentals of security, because that's how you're going to implement the artificial intelligence. You look at the 4 levels here, say where I can put the artificial intelligence and how deep that artificial intelligence will be there. The 4 fundamentals of the security practices: identifying the patterns, educating the users, and patching the holes, and then checking off the controls. And I'm going to cover all of them, and we have plenty of time to cover all of the all of the facts we have here. With the hype surrounding the AI here, and tend to overlook very important fact that the best defense against potential AI, artificial intelligence cyber attack, is maintaining fundamental security postures that incorporate continuous monitoring, user education, diligent patch management, and basic configuration controls. And let's look what that mean. Identifying the pattern. AI, is all about patterns, and we understand that one is when if you use any of the AI packages, if you wrote programs for this one, if you're dealing with machine learning, you're trying to identify certain patterns so you can have them a certain category. You can say this is a car, this is a cat, this is a movement, this is light, and so on. So hackers, for example, looks for patterns, servers and firewalls, and configuration, and use of outdated operating system like the Windows XP, user actions and response and tactics and more. These patterns give them information about the network and what is available in that network. So that using AI in this one will identify it for you. Say, okay, you got a problem with that certain port. You got a problem with the behavior of people, logging from this one, not changing their password, every certain time. This will be defined by artificial intelligence instead of using the time of human, or using a simple script to expire after a timer. The AI will help with that in doing that. Network administrators always look for patterns. In addition to scanning, for pattern, the way the hacker attempt to intrude is they are trying to identify potential differences, changes, spikes in network, traffics, irregular type of network traffics, unauthorized user login, and other red flags. And this is technically what you do when you have the AI. And I'm not talking about 5 or 6 or 300 computers. I'm talking about thousands of computers, talking about companies, you're talking about government agency, you talk about everybody is looking at that, and they're trying to understand, okay, how can I protect that? And think about any federal agency, think about any state agency, think about any university. Here we have 35,000 students, at San Jose State, and we have thousands of staff. Now, how are we going to monitor all that? I mean, how many people are you going to hire just to monitor a certain part of it, to make sure that there is no spike, in the traffic that nobody knows about it? There is no irregularity in the types of networks. And I remember an incident where, the most famous, the most easiest thing to look at it is the phishing email. Somebody will send you an email to say your password expired. Click on this one, you can update it because you're going to be locked out of your account. That email passed through the filters, and I received it, so I contacted IT and told them watch out for this one, and they just block it. So with the AI, you're not going to have this kind of incident, which is something will be lost in all the thousands and thousands of activities we have every day. Collecting data and monitoring the state of the network under normal operating condition, administrators can set up their system to automatically detect something like that and give them information about it. And I know we have, with Cisco, with, Juniper, with Arista, with all those big names, they have this kind of information. Well, I'm talking about the second layer of that. I'm not talking about the simple scripting part of the operating system of the network. I'm talking about going to the, to some kind of intelligence that will identify, the outliers here. They identify the activities. They identify it over a span, over a certain time. Somebody's trying to get into that account. This person used to access it this way, and now it's different. With this person trying to access areas that's not supposed to do, or persons. This is a fundamental security approach. It works perfectly fine. It's preventing more traditional types of attack like malware or phishing. It can also be used very effectively to deter any AI-enabled threats. The weakest link in any network, the weakest security link in any network we talk about it, in any system we talk about it, is actually the human. And they are the strongest one when they are educated about it. You send an email for people to change their password. Change it, but do not leave any trace of that. Change it by not just adding one letter at the end. Change it by not making it obvious. So an organization could have the best monitoring system in the world, but the work that you do can all be undermined by a single employee clicking on the wrong link, or not following the policy. So the implementation, the governance of applying the policies of the security is very important, as much as having the hardware and the software. Beautiful car, expensive car, full ready, no drivers, or a reckless driver. And that's what we have here. And in this case, you're talking about social engineering. It's a big, huge security challenge for businesses. And if you don't know what is social engineering, it's trying to create a profile by checking your behavior on different social media and trying to understand what you like, what could be your password, what could be your behavior, what you do. And it's easy now because people share a lot of information, social information, their life and their information. They always share that one on their Facebook, on their Instagram, on their Snapchat, on their Twitter. So you almost know that person by just following that person for a few months. So the preferences, what you like, what they don't like here. So the social engineering is another one, and it is engineering. That's when it goes through multiple steps and takes time for them to get there. Employees are considered by many as the weakest link or links in the security chain, as evidenced the recent survey that found that careless and untrained insider represent the top security threat or threats. And this is not talking about somebody who intentionally do that. I'm talking about careless, and trained. Somebody who will change the password and write it down and have the password under the keyboard, or have it stick to the monitor. This is the new password, to just remind himself or herself about it. Or have a password which is not as strong as we can here. Google used some kind of security protocol, I call it. It's a hardware and a software. And it's called advanced, protection, program. Which that one it's called app. Now it's a hardware and a software, and you can search that one and find it. Google has 85,000 employees, and it's being safe from the phishing, from the problems of somebody trying to access your information by using that. So you access it with your credential, and then you use a hardware, two pieces. One of them is like a key, a car key, and the other one is like USB. And then you have to verify it for, again, instead of having a text message sent to your smartphone, and that's proven to be hackable because they can intercept that and get that code and access your account, or change the phone number and access your account. Educating users on what not to do first and what to do is very important, and so it's extremely important. Safeguard for every single employee there. Many times you will have this training about security and about the use of computers, and you have it something on the end, you watch it on the web, and you're done with it. The worst case scenario for you is that you start thinking about this one after your computer is hacked, or you have some kind of suspicious link that will add viruses to the network of the whole company. Agencies must also develop a plan that requires all employees to understand their individual rules and in their battle against the cybersecurity threats, and to make the security better. Response and recovery plan has to be clear. What if? Okay, now it's happened. We've been hacked. My computer is locked, or I'm seeing website that I'm not not supposed to see, and somebody, you know, had access to this one. Okay, what is the step? This is exactly important as preventing this one from happening, because this is part of the education of the users. And if we educate the users, we are eliminating a big chunk of headache and stress for the security specialists or the security experts. So response and recovery plan, that's as also important. So everyone knows what to do, expect if something happened. Famous case is the case of Sony, when they Sony Entertainment, when being hacked in 2014, and somebody took all the information about the actors and actress, their salaries, the social security number, some of the scripts for coming TV shows. They released one of the movies before Sony can have it in the theaters. It was a disaster. And in that company, nobody knows what to do. They have no idea what to do. And there was 7,000 employees in that area, and that unit of Sony, they don't have any training about, okay, they told them just go home, because they don't have a plan to deal with it if this disaster happened. The patching management is a key thing as much as what we talk about it. Hackers knows when patches are released. So you know what they do? They will scan as many network as they can to see which one they have not implemented this patch. So when you talk about patching management, you're talking about, you know, an emergency situation for you. You fix it, you download it, and I'm talking about the network administrator. And I'm talking about, you know, you having your computer, you having your laptop, you having your desktop. Just do it. Don't wait. If you don't fix it, you are really opening yourself, you know, for some kind of risk. And the hackers, they go around and just use the AI to just check to see which one did not use this kind of of patching. The last one is checking off the controls. The Center for Internet Security, if you go to their website, you're going to see a wonderful list. It's about 20 actions that in total that you can use it to set control designed to provide agencies with a checklist. So you know that you are really, the health of your network is really good. So, I mentioned 5 of them. It's the device inventories. You know exactly what devices you have, which one is connected to the network, no shadow IT. And if you're in this field, you know what I'm talking about. Shadow ITs is devices, unauthorized devices, and those unauthorized devices hooked up to the network without the permission of IT. I have my laptop, it's issued by the company, protected up to the level of security. I use another laptop to access the same network. It's not approved. Was not approved by that. Or use my smart phone or iPad or tablet to access it. And that's called the shadow IT. It's a big problem for IT. They always see those unknown IP addresses, floating, and they deal with it. Software tracking, security configuration, assessment, control of administrative privilege. Always go with the least privileged, policy. Least privileged policy. In English, it means you give them exactly what they want. Don't be generous by opening the door for people. Yeah, you can access this, you can access that. Why? Because it's easy for you just to have a blanket security or blanket access for everybody. AI can do that by looking at the level of that employee and say, you level of this one, this is how much you're going to get access. You level of this one, this is how much you're going to get as an access here. All of these practices, monitoring, user education, patch management, and following the CIS control can help. The agencies in their defense, fortifying themselves against even the most sophisticated AI attack here. This, what we talk about it is looking at the fundamentals of security and how the AI will use for this one. Now we're going to look at the other side of the coin, which is what kind of challenges facing using AI in security. And I'm going to go over that. We have 6 of them, so I'm going to cover all of them here. The challenges that facing the AI. Number one is the other side, which is AI-powered attacks. So if you have your artificial intelligence, smart security Well, they have smart attacks. You have AI-powered attacks. And it's going to learn. It's going to learn from the attack that you have this defense, so next time they're going to go, okay, we're going to try something else. According to a report by WebRoot, AI is used by approximately 87% of the U.S. cybersecurity professionals. But it's a double-edged sword. 90%, 91% of the security professionals are concerned that the hackers will use the AI against them. So the expert, they look at it and say, 87%, which is, you're talking about a big chunk of it. This is a conservative number here. And the other side did exactly the same number. They worried, okay, if I know this one, somebody else knows this fact, so he or she can use this one against us. AI can be used to automate the collection of certain information related to a specific organization, which may be sourced from support forums, codes, social media platforms, and more. It's not just from the company to get that information. May be used to assist the hacker when it comes to cracking password by narrowing down the number of probabilities or probable password based on geographic, demographic, and other factors. Social engineering, smart social engineering in this case. The Sandbox evading malware. Now, the Sandbox technology is a great technology. I know a lot of companies that are dealing with it, they like it. And if you don't know what the Sandbox technology is, that it's basically an isolated area where the emails, the information, the access of the web will go through a third party, will check it first. It's like you have somebody at the door. And when the mail comes, he or she will check it and say, this is safe, this is not safe, this is safe. This goes both ways. But the hackers, they know about that. The criminals, the cyber criminals, they already know about that. You're using this company's technology, that means you're using a Sandbox technology. So they find more ways to evade this kind of technology. How can I make sure that if it went to the Sandbox, they will approve it and say, okay, this is a good one. For example, new strain of malware are able to recognize when they are inside a Sandbox, intelligent malware, and wait until they are outside the Sandbox before they execute this kind of command. That takes us back to the same problem, which is if you're smart, there's somebody else smarter than you will overcome whatever techniques and defense you have. Ransomware and IoT. And I wrote a lot of articles about IoT. I'm going to leave my information at the end of the presentation. IoT, the Internet of Things, is not a hype anymore. It's a reality. We have sensors everywhere. We have communications. We have smart speakers that talk, and get orders and make some actions based on the network. So the IoT ransom is not just, ransom is not just the computers. Now we're talking about devices like thermostat, like speakers, like cars, doors, smart locks. All of these things are part of the IoT, which means they have an IP, they have access to the network, you connect them to the Wi-Fi. Now you're opening them again as devices, you're opening them to be part of convenient, yes. Future houses, smart cities, smart, homes, smart cars, beautiful. I like that. But at the same time, you have a problem, which is you're opening this to the hackers to go there. Smart fridge, smart ovens, and smart, all of these things as part of it. Now, this fear was realized in 2016 by a famous incident. And that incident is really interesting to talk about. So in October 21st of 2016, when I remember that was Friday because I was giving a speech about security during that time in one of the conferences here. This company, OIN, they are like like Akamai. If you heard about Akamai, they're exactly like that one. What they do, they host big companies, and they host them in a sense that they control the traffic to the New York Times website, Netflix, Twitter, and they make sure that to balance it. So they're doing a lot of traffic management there. That company, being hacked in a very creative way. Well, it's a criminally creative way, using a virus or using an attack called Mariah, which is the Japanese word for the future. It's a botnet. This is a huge botnet. And if you look at the program, if you go to GitHub and try to find it, you're going to find it's about 600 lines written in C. And it's not fascinating. It's not sophisticated program. It's not millions of code. It's 600 lines. And that program, this is what happened with it. The attack came at that time where when they initiate that one, it scanned the internet for any device that still have the default password, the factory default password. So they found, cameras, smart cameras. They found smart locks. They found, many of the devices that have IP address, but the password, the default password is available on the internet, and they access it. And they use it as their springboard to attack the different websites. So they use it to go to the internet and hit, some of the famous websites, and they brought them down. It's about 500 million devices. They could do this one by just using 600 lines of code. The next one is the rise of state-sponsored attack. And I'm going to go through the politics of this one because politics is not something I like or I deal with. But this is a reality. When you talk about state-sponsored attack, you're talking about almost unlimited resources, money, time, staff, and there is so many incidents happen. For example, you're talking about the Sony attack. That is one big problem. Is what happened in the Olympics is another one. That's another problem. What happened with the elections? All these things are state-sponsored attacks, and they have the resources, and they have the time, and they have the political power behind them, and we cannot do anything about it. All of this one is one way for them to fussle the and flex their muscles about everybody. How to deal with them? It's a national security issue. A plan for the whole country, the plan for how to deal with the incident here. It's well funded and disruptive as the big time. Next one is the shortage of the skilled staff. The shortage of the skilled staff is a problem. Every measure, cybersecurity threats are going more and more by the day. And the schools, and I'm talking about the universities. I taught it, and the universities I'm teaching at now. The interest in the cybersecurity is great, but we don't have enough people that we graduate so they can go and help and fill the shortage. That's a problem for us. That's a real problem here. You have the devices, you have the program, but you don't have somebody to staff that. The infrastructure, the IT infrastructure. Modern enterprise has just too many IT systems. They spread all over the place, so you are exposing yourself in a geographic area. Manual tracking of this one, the health of the systems, even when they're operating in the high integrated manner, is still a problem. It's still a challenge for this. Most of the businesses that only a practical method for embrace and advance and expensive cybersecurity technologies, it's not a priority for them. Only big companies, small companies, medium companies, they can live with less secure systems and a plan for the business after the disaster. Do you have it? Small companies, how many of them really have that plan ready just in case there is a cyber attack and somebody took over the customer list or took over the information about, this is a small hospital, somebody took the ransom, took the information about it. And I'll give you, let me mention that two examples, recent example here in the United States. One of them happened in Atlanta, where the ransomware was paralyzing the city hall. So people cannot pay their bills, the utilities, they cannot get permission, permits, they cannot do anything about it. Everything went down to paper, and they give them 7 days. 7 days to pay, to pay them $51,000 in Bitcoins, or everything gonna be gone. Same thing happened with Baltimore. They actually took over the 911 system, and as criminal as that, and inhumane, to do something like this one. But this is what they have done, and the reason for them to take the 911 system was because there was an update for the system, and one of the IT staff did not finish that update. So that was an opening for the cyber criminal to get there and take over the system. Here's the problem here, and this is the problem. I would like to make it clear that we understand. Cybersecurity now is reactive. This is in most cases. This it helps alert the IT staff about the data breaches, identity theft, suspicious application, and any kind of activities. Is more of an enabler of the disaster management. That's the problem. Here comes the big question. What about not letting the cybercrime happen at all? That's the big question here. And that takes me to the last 2 slides here, which is the future of cybersecurity and AI. The security world, the world AI has a very clear cut. We talk about of potential good for everybody. They're closely unbalanced with the bad actors, the cybersecurity here, to pick from thousands of the openings, the problems, vulnerabilities, to launch their attacks, while they have only been successful once. That's all what they need. Ask to defend the system, and at the same time, they will succeed at one. Cybersecurity expert, they must defend against every single one every day. Advanced resources, intelligence, new algorithms, the advancement of machine learning, all of these things will motivate us to compete against them. An attack found in a high level, and especially the attacks found in the high level attacks, and the sheer number of the attack happening every day. With all this in mind, looking at how difficult it is to defend against every single bad actors, state-supported, attacks, AI attack, it's become like an impossible mission. And this is why we need to advance in AI and machine learning and the analytical tools we are using, so we can catch up with this non-stop attack here. The analytical speed and power of our dream security would be able to tip these scales off. It's a race. And I remember what Mark Zuckerberg talked about a few days ago. He said, this is a race, this is a war. And a war has many stages, and there is no way for one company or for one software by itself to do that. It is the collective understanding of the significance of this problem and taking action together. That I know that the tech companies really took very seriously is to about the attacks, and this is a good step, because solid cybersecurity need to have enough information, like the intelligence you have between the countries about criminals, terrorists, whatever. They exchange this kind of information. So they say, okay, well, watch out, this one is in the watch list, so this is what happens. So they exchange this information among themselves. We should do the same thing for cybersecurity, and this can be done easily with artificial intelligence. And I'm not talking about facial recognition. I'm not talking about. This is just one tool. This is where the noise is happening, where everybody thinks that it's going to be solved by having some kind of facial recognition. We can recognize that person. It's deep down with the traffic design of the network, the structure we have, the shortage of the staff we have. That's a big problem. And small help with this one, and small victories were not going to help us with it. A perfect security is some way is off. Not only that would need the AI to be bona fide, simulated mind that can pass the test, the Turing test. It also needs to be a fully trained cybersecurity professional capable of replicating the decision made by the most expert. Train it so it's act like you as an expert of 20 years dealing with this, as somebody who has this kind of background and dealing with that one all the time. We can reach this brilliant AI seen on the sci-fi, which is, you can see it in so many of the movies. We need to go through some fairly testing stages. We still have, although that these still have a huge value in themselves, some truly astounding breakthrough are happening all the time. So that's what the expectations here, and that's the beginning. As when you realize that your first line of defense is AI for the cybersecurity, it's the first step, and you realize that in order for you to use it and use it well, you go to the next step, which is fulfill all the conditions we talk about it here. Okay, so this is my contact information. If you need a copy of the presentation, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. My LinkedIn profile and my email, and also my Twitter account or handle. You're more than welcome to to join my social media. I have about 28,000 followers in my social media, and I'll be more than happy to add more. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate that, and there will be a session after that for any one-on-one question. If you have any questions now, I'll be more than happy to do it, or otherwise we're done. Now I have a question here. Okay, no problem. Thank you for this one. Here's what happened with it is IBM announced that there's a new malware. That new malware, what happened with it is it's going to be sitting in the computer waiting for the right person to access the computer, and then they will go and get that information. It's not like what we have now, which is just clean whatever you have in that one. It doesn't matter who's that person. It's what's matter is the computer. Now this one is talking about you as a person. You're a very important high-level person here. They're gonna wait for you until you access that that account, and then get the information there. So this is when we talk about how IBM is mentioning this one, and I have this slide also on my LinkedIn profile and also in this presentation. Any other questions? Anybody has any other questions? Very good question, and this goes back to the political will. How the countries are willing to work with each other. My understanding that they are exchanging a lot of information. It's part of the intelligence exchange there. How deep and how frequent is that one? It depends on so many political factors there. Exactly, yes. I mean, that's what they do. There is another agency that deals with the cybersecurity. It's part of the Interpol there, but they exchange all this information about the bad act. That's why you will hear about they're getting one of the hackers in a certain part in Europe, and they send that person to the United States, and vice versa. If somebody did something, then the United States will inform that country that this person who just damaged your infrastructure or did this kind of hacking, he's with us or she's with us, and then you can deal with that. It's a solid, and I'm a big believer in this one, is a solid cybersecurity policy, which is exchange of information. You don't have to expose your national security plan or infrastructure. You just share that information with them to tell them that, listen, this is what happened. This is the steps, or this is the way the hacker did. So be careful about it. That's what the tech companies is doing these days. Before, they don't have it. They don't exchange this kind of information. Now they realize that if they don't do it, then the government will have a regulation, and that regulation will slow down their growth and their innovation. It is interesting and scary, and trust me, I don't feel ease when I talk about it, because I have done almost 20 interviews on TV and radio talking about this issue by itself, and it's not getting easy by the day. It's actually getting more and more challenging. Any more questions? Okay. Again, I have a one-on-one session. If somebody would like to talk to me, I'll be more than happy to help that person. I have it at 5 our time, which is another 10 minutes from now. I don't know what time you have in your but thank you. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to with the best for providing me this opportunity. I appreciate that. And you have my contact information. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys. Thank you.